Now, Steve, you mentioned yesterday that KJ spent a lot of time working on a short game, as I'm sure Stuart has been doing as well. Are there any special short game shots that the players have to learn for this week with different greenside conditions to what you normally see out on tour?
Look, one of the things that I love about Augusta is that it's closely mown around the edge of all the greens. Most of the weeks that we play on the US tour, we've got rough right up to the edge of the green. So there's very little variety in short game shots. Most of the time you just miss the green, the ball rolls into 4 or 5 inches of rye or fescue grass and you play like a bunker shot out of it. But here it's closely mown and the ball can run off down the hill 10 or 15 yards away. And then you've got a choice of you can putt it, you can chip and run along the ground, you can couple of bounce it into the hill, or you can try and lob it onto the green and check it up. Now, most of the guys that adapt well to this are the type of players that have played internationally and around the world and are used to those type of conditions. A lot of the players who haven't played much of this type of golf, they really struggle with a tight lie, with a sand iron in their hand and all of these options, and it often takes them quite a few years of practice at this tournament before they can actually come up with a strategy for what best suits them.
Jeff Ogilvy said in his interviews yesterday that on some holes you'd rather be off the green but below the hole than be on the green and above it. Now, just as players choose which holes to attack from tee to green, are there certain greens where one would look to be more aggressive than others?
Look, there's no green at Augusta that you can be aggressive. Your goal always is to keep the ball under the hole from a putting point of view. So you've always either got a flat putt or something that's slightly uphill. But there's a few greens where you can be slightly downhill, but most of the greens there, if you get on the wrong side of the pin, you're only hoping that you're going to be able to two-putt from there. And there's every chance you're going to have to hole a 6 or an 8 footer for your second putt. So when Jeff talks about, some greens you're better off missing than being above the hole, that's very true. Probably 13 or 14 holes out there where you'd rather a chip up the hill than a putt down the hill.
So Steve, do the players go out tomorrow with a certain number in mind, or is that just being too result oriented?
No, look, every player that I've worked with or been able to ask about their approach to how they go about playing major championships, they nearly always come up with the one saying that they just play each hole and one shot at a time. So they plan their strategy for each hole as they get to it based on the wind conditions and the weather and the pin placement on the day, and then they knuckle down to what is my target, this is the process that I go through, prepare the shot and get up and hit it. So we always use the 4-step routine, which is step 1, make a decision, step 2, prepare the feel of the swing that's going to hit the shot that you've decided on, step 3, go through your setup routine, and step 4 is always the easiest and the hardest thing to do in golf. And the reason it's the easiest is because if you're prepared properly, there's no further thought required, and that's also why it's the hardest. There's no further thought required. So to be able to just commit without getting in your own way is always a tough thing in golf, but that's the goal.
Now, you mentioned a couple of days ago that Stuart's been striking the ball really well, but of course you'd like the putting to be a little better. What sort of specific drills have you been doing over the last few days to get that up to scratch?
Well, I've been working, Gio Valianti, who's sports psych, has been working with Stuart the last few weeks. I'm just trying to free up his putting and just trust his instincts a little bit more. And what we've been doing, technically we made some changes. He was starting to get too much into his left side and the putter was coming up a bit steep and he was actually de-lofting it on the way down, so not getting the good roll. So he's widened his stance, got his weight back on his heels a little bit more, and now the putter's bottoming out and he's catching it, if anything, slightly on the up, and he's getting a much better roll on the ball. But because the ball wasn't starting on line, Stuart's been focusing really hard on starting the ball on line, and that sort of distracted him from the art of putting. So now mentally he's trying to project his mind more to seeing the ball go in the hole from the high side, breaking into the hole, and then just letting his instinct go ahead and make the stroke that's required.
Now, Steve, finally, what sort of stats will you be paying the most attention to this week in your after-round analysis?
The main stat this week is actually going to be the strategy stat. Stuart's goal is to follow the process on every shot, to go through his routine and commit to each and every shot. If he can come off the golf course and say, today I selected every target, I prepared correctly and I committed to every shot, that's the only stat that I'm interested in this week. Now, 5 or 6 times during a round of golf, he feels that mentally he wasn't able to commit to the shot that he decided on. Well, that's the stat that we need to improve as the tournament goes on, because the key here is if you make a mental mistake or fail to commit to a decision, this golf course is going to reach you up very quickly.
Steve, thank you so much for your time. I think everyone watching these videos will appreciate the work that goes into preparing for a major championship. We wish you and your players the best of luck for the tournament and look forward to speaking with you tomorrow.
Thank you very much, and hopefully when we're talking tomorrow, we're talking about a couple of subpar rounds for KJ and Stuart.
Look forward to it.